Do you remember where you were when Pluto died? In 2006, the world woke up to the news that our solar system had shrunk. Pluto was out. But this wasn't an act of cruelty by scientists who hate fun. It was a decision made to save the solar system from total chaos. If we hadn't demoted Pluto, you wouldn't be memorizing the names of 9 planets today. You would be memorizing the names of 50. The truth is, Pluto wasn't demoted because it changed. It was demoted because we finally opened our eyes to what else is hiding in the dark. For 76 years, Pluto was the underdog. It was the lonely, icy outpost at the edge of our map. It was planet number 9. But in August 2006, the International Astronomical Union took a vote and Pluto was stripped of its title. It was reclassified as a dwarf planet. The public was furious. People made Save Pluto t-shirts. Textbooks had to be rewritten. It felt like we had betrayed a friend. But the story of Pluto's downfall isn't about politics. It is about a discovery that forced us to rewrite the definition of a planet. Welcome to Space Facts. Let's solve the case of the missing planet. To understand why Pluto left, we have to understand how it arrived. The search for Pluto began because astronomers thought something heavy was tugging on Neptune. They called it Planet X. When Clyde Tombaugh found Pluto in 1930, everyone assumed this was the giant they were looking for. We thought Pluto was huge, roughly the size of Earth. But as telescopes improved, Pluto kept shrinking. By the 1970s, we realized Pluto was tiny. It is smaller than our own moon. In fact, Pluto is smaller than the United States of America. If you laid Pluto on top of Earth, it would barely cover the distance from California to New York. And then there's the issue of its behavior. If you look at the solar system from the side, the 8 main planets all orbit on a nice flat plate. But Pluto is the rebellious teenager. Its orbit is tilted at a wild 17-degree angle. Even stranger, its orbit is an oval, not a circle. For 20 years out of every 248-year orbit, Pluto actually gets closer to the Sun than Neptune. It literally cuts across traffic. But being small and driving in the wrong lane doesn't disqualify you. The real problem wasn't Pluto's size. The problem was its roommates. For decades, we thought Pluto was a lonely object at the edge of space. But in the 1990s, we discovered the Kuiper Belt. It turns out Pluto isn't alone. It is sitting in the middle of a massive donut-shaped ring of icy debris. There are millions of objects out there. Pluto wasn't a solitary planet. It was just the first piece of rubble we managed to see because it was slightly brighter than the rest. This made astronomers nervous. If Pluto is a planet, what about all these other floating ice rocks? Then, in 2005, the hammer dropped. Astronomer Mike Brown discovered Eris. Eris is another icy world in the Kuiper Belt, and it's roughly the same size as Pluto, and it's actually 27% more massive. This created a crisis. If Pluto is a planet, then Eris must be a planet. And if Eris is a planet, what about Makemake? What about Haumea, the egg-shaped rock? What about Sedna? We had 2 choices. Option A, we welcome all these ice balls to the club, and suddenly kids have to memorize 50 planets in science class. Option B, we draw a line in the sand and kick Pluto out. The IAU met in Prague and chose option B. They realized science is about precision, and we didn't actually have a definition for the word planet, so they wrote one. To be a planet, you must pass 3 tests. Test 1, you must orbit the Sun. Pluto passes. It goes around the Sun even if its orbit is tilted and wild. Test 2, you must be round. Pluto passes. It has enough gravity to pull itself into a sphere. It's not a lumpy potato like an asteroid. Test 3, you must clear your neighborhood. This is the new rule that killed Pluto. What does clearing the neighborhood mean? Real planets are gravitational bullies. They are so massive that as they circle the Sun, they become the dominant force in their zone. They act like cosmic vacuum cleaners, either sucking up all the debris in their path or flinging it away with their gravity. Earth is a planet because there are no other massive rocks in our orbit. We're the boss of our lane. To give you some perspective, Earth is 1.7 million times more massive than all the other stuff in its orbit combined. Pluto is not the boss. Its orbit is messy. It's cluttered with thousands of other Kuiper Belt objects. Pluto crashes through this debris field rather than controlling it. In fact, Pluto is influenced by Neptune's gravity more than it influences its own surroundings. The ratio of Pluto's mass to the debris around it is just 0.07. It simply isn't powerful enough to kick the other rocks out of the way. So, Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet. But don't feel bad for it. This isn't an insult, it's a promotion. Instead of being the runt of the planets, Pluto is now the king of the Kuiper Belt. And thanks to the New Horizons mission that flew past Pluto in 2015, we know that Pluto is cooler than we ever imagined. It isn't a dead rock. It has towering mountains made of water ice. It has vast plains of frozen nitrogen that flow like glaciers. It has a blue atmosphere. It might even have cryovolcanoes that spew ice slush instead of lava. Pluto is complex, active, and beautiful. It just doesn't fit the rules anymore. Science isn't about sticking to tradition, it's about updating our view when we get new data. When we discovered that Earth wasn't the center of the universe, we changed the books. When we discovered that atoms could be split, we changed the physics. And when we discovered that the solar system was much more crowded than we thought, we had to change the definition of a planet. Pluto didn't go anywhere. It's still out there, spinning in the dark, watching over the deep solar system. It doesn't care what we call it. But now when we look at it, we see it for what it really is, the gateway to the unknown. If this cleared up the cosmic controversy for you, hit that like button. Subscribe to Space Facts to keep exploring the universe, one misunderstood rock at a time.